Yeah, we're able to go. All right, so we call the meeting to order at 7:10 for the August 17th meeting of the Enfield Conservation Commission. And if you'll all say your names so we can take the attendance, I would appreciate it.
Lee Davis, Carol Lyman,
Jeremy Clay.
Craig Sanborn.
Kate Plumley Stewart.
Jay Wells.
Gerald Tice. You're a guest.
I am.
We want to make sure that he's recognized as a guest.
Recognized.
Thank you.
So you've already introduced yourself, and I think I'm
Somewhat,
gonna
yeah.
take your presentation out of order, so you don't have to sit through the whole thing unless you don't want
I
to.
love the plan.
Okay, so this is a Department of Public Works, employee who is in charge of the processing of roads in the wintertime and elsewhere, and he has something to address us about regarding materials that are being used on the roads.
So I wanted to introduce myself. I haven't been to a Conservation Commission meeting yet. My name is Jeremy Clay, and I'm the highway supervisor here for the town of Enfield.
Cool.
And I wanted to answer any questions that you may have. It sounded like when I talked with Dr. Tice earlier this year that there may be a bit of a disconnect maybe, between what the residents think that we do every day and what we actually do, during the snowstorms and things like that. So I wanted to answer any questions and dispel any myths that we may have. So one of the first things that we changed right off the bat was I started using a liquid called magnesium chloride. And Dr. Tice was good enough to stop by one day, and he was fairly excited about it because of the benefits that it has for waterways and things like that. And so we continued to use that last year, and we'll continue to use that this year. It's an anti-icing, de-icing, and a treatment for if we have to put down salt. It's a treatment for the salt so that it reduces what's called the bounce and scatter, when the dry salt hits the road and off it goes into the ditch, and then it doesn't do anybody any good. So we put the magnesium chloride on it, and it stays where we put it essentially. And it has quite a few benefits. The other thing it has is a rust inhibitor, a natural rust inhibitor. It's made from, well, it's magnesium and chloride, but it's also what makes it stick to the salt is molasses. So it'll smell like molasses. I have already done a study, and it does not attract any more deer to the side of the road than salt does. And it.
Can you smell it at all?
Oh, yeah.
You can smell
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it smells like grandma's kitchen. It's awesome.
Oh.
It's great.
Well, then they'll smell it also, but if they.
They like salt.
They like the salt too.
They'll come for the salt anyway.
Right, so when I started this in Claremont, a few years ago, I asked the police and fire to track, deer strikes incidents, through the fall and winter. And we didn't see any significant increase at all for the 3 years that we tracked it, so,
Okay.
that was my concern as well. So the other thing it does is it's almost it neutralizes the salt, so it's almost inert. On the corrosion scale, if you will, it's from the Pacific Northwest Snow Fighters scale. They have a corrosion gradation that goes from theoretically 0 to 100, with distilled water being 0 and salt being 100. Calcium chloride actually hits at about 121. Magnesium chloride hits at 11.9, so it's almost edible. I don't know how much magnesium you want in your system, but so those are some of the perks and some of the benefits to it. We've been using it this spring and summer on the roads. As we grade the roads, it seems to be a better product than a calcium chloride to keep dust down, keep the roads tighter. I was gonna try and study the roads a little bit this summer and see if they were harder, tighter, better with magnesium, but we've had enough rain that I really can't study anything this year. So
Is that a liquid when you
It is.
apply it? So you see it, the streaks. I've noticed it in Hanover years ago, and that's what you're using.
well,
Similar?
no, Hanover uses a salt brine
Okay,
product, which is just salt water,
okay.
is all it is.
Okay.
we experimented last year a little bit, 2 years ago in Hanover with it. They didn't like it as much.
Okay,
Then, change is hard for some.
I know.
Yeah.
So it looks the same, but it's different.
It doesn't even look the same. This is a brown liquid. It.
Oh, okay, so it's brown, okay, cause I just noticed the streaks, you know how
Yep.
you see rows
Yep.
of
This
something
comes
they
out the
apply?
same way. It comes
Okay.
out in streaks, and the reason you want that is because if you mess up, if the temperature drops more than what the weatherman says it's going to, you can actually freeze up the entire town if you're using a saltwater product.
Right,
And those streaks, where the salt water goes down is supposed to be your traction area. If you
Right.
freeze up the town, the snow next to those little streaks becomes your traction area, but it's not a good scenario.
Okay.
You have to really be careful with it, but we may try and dip into that next year a little bit. It's very inexpensive, but
okay,
about 9 cents a gallon to make brine, salt brine, where we're paying about $1.36 a gallon for this stuff.
yeah,
But so far it feels like it's worth it.
okay,
I think the waterways are better off. I think
that's always good.
yeah,
I
I
agree
think
with
everything's
that.
better off. It seems like the roads are a little bit better, the critters like it better, so,
In the water,
yeah.
the lakes and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the best, it's the best product for the scenario. I mean, it's, salt is horrible, sand is horrible, it's all terrible. This is the best thing we can do to get through winter in a bad situation. I mean, short of picking this place up and moving to Florida in December, can't really do much more than that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah, anything that can be done, it's been shown that the concentrations of salt in natural bodies of water are destroying the protozoans and other things that the fish feed on.
Right.
So anything that can be done to limit that would be useful.
Yeah.
For the food chain.
Yeah.
And the deer are not likely to eat it anyway, but if they did, they just get diarrhea. Magnesium chloride is used as a means of producing diarrhea. Well, it isn't gonna, it isn't gonna do
The lack
anything,
of it.
but yeah, it's a laxative. Okay, anything else, Mr. Clay?
I have nothing else unless you have questions for me.
Okay, do you have any questions for Mr.
I
Clay?
just have a comment. I think whatever you're doing great.
Well,
Great
thank you.
job.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the roads, you do a great job.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the roads.
The guys are-
Thanks.
Are pretty intent on it, so they work well, they work hard on them,
It's
so.
been a tough year since
It was a
you
tough,
got all of the bad weather since you came. I'm sorry.
I know,
It was a test.
yeah.
It's been
maybe I-
mostly ice, so.
It was, and I think this winter is gonna be the same thing, where it's hovering around that 32 degrees, and we get some days rain, some days snow, and it
Yeah.
melts all day and then freezes all night, and I've heard this winter is gonna be the same thing. And unfortunately, that doesn't save us any more than, as far as salt and sand and products, that 32-degree mark right there doesn't save us any more than if it was just get cold and stay cold and be done with it, so.
Good for the maple syrup people.
It sure is, yeah. Yeah, you can-
Somebody benefits.
Yeah, we can start running sap in January, February and March.
I want the quality's low.
So do I didn't even go ice fishing last year.
There were no huts out
Yeah,
there.
I
no
didn't
people
go one
skating
time.
on the lake.
Yeah, it was a sketchy year for ice. The ice was white and porous and
Yeah.
just wasn't good, so I didn't.
Scary.
Did you ever go out at night though and listen to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And all the
Unbelievable.
cracks and pops. and-
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, I like getting out on the ice too.
Yeah, I don't know what it was doing, but it was actually,
just been vibrating.
yeah, vibrating.
Are there any more questions?
I-
I'm all set.
Clay?
Are you in charge of the the transfer station?
I am not. Monetarily I am, but supervisorily I am not.
Well, just pass the word along. They're really great down there.
Yeah,
They're such gentlemen and they're so helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
I will certainly do that.
I wrote a letter and said, why don't you have a, transfer cycle employee day?
Yeah.
You know? But I didn't get an answer. I don't know where the letter went, but,
I will certainly pass those sentiments along. Thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Jeremy.
If nothing else, I'm gonna,
Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Clay. I appreciate it. And anytime you have something that you want to talk to the Conservation Commission about, just give me a call and I will put you on the menu.
perfect. So I tried to email you a few weeks ago. It may be it didn't go through, so.
jhticedvm@gmail.com.
Might have missed the DVM part.
Okay, well,
We'll shoot it.
you have my phone number.
I do.
Well, then if
Perfect.
you don't get an answer from my email,
Yeah.
just call me
Absolutely.
and leave a message on the thing and I'll call you back.
Perfect. All
Great,
right.
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye. This is-
Okay, so we need to take a, look at the minutes if you haven't done so. The only correction that I found was that the next meeting minutes is not, the next meeting is not August 3rd, but it's August 17th, and we should get,
That,
Whitney to.
that was correct at the time your meeting happened, so you have to leave it, because that's what was said. So you can't change what was said during the meeting if that's what was said. So, because you changed the meeting date after.
So what if somebody says, well, you didn't meet on the 3rd, and why
And-
did you tell us you did?
No, because you, in your minutes, you're saying your next meeting is, and back on that date it was. So you can't go back in time and change what you said. You can only make note of it in this. So I think like for today's minutes purposes, you can say, hey, we noticed that we said, but we had to make a change and it was publicly posted, so it met the
Yeah.
legal requirements. So you should be fine the way it's printed.
So have they recorded it that the meeting was actually held on the 17th of August instead of the 3rd?
We got it recording successfully. Don't ask me about the format. I'm still trying to figure out why it's angry.
All right, great. Okay, the next thing is, well, we need to vote.
Approve the minutes?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the,
I'll make a motion that we approve the
I'll
minutes.
second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the minutes are. The next item on the agenda is, vote to donate the wildlife crossing signs to the Department of Public Works for replacing damaged signs. Do I hear any, dissent about that? I've talked to Mr. Taylor about it and he felt that, he could use those signs to replace the ones that are damaged, and we can't put them up because the Board of Selectmen refuses to allow us to. So I figured that they would be the best use was to donate them to the town so they
Makes
could,
sense.
use them for repairing.
Sounds good.
So all in favor of that particular activity, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'd like
Opposed?
to, oh, good. I'm fine.
Okay,
I'd just like to clarify, the Board of Selectmen didn't refuse to. We had a discussion and there was a recommendation from both the chief of police and highway on not doing it. And so we opted to take that recommendation. It wasn't just unilateral. We don't feel like doing it.
okay, the next is the new business.
What about this, Mo open space?
Yeah. Vote to approve DPW to mow open spaces along Bicknell Brook.
Oh, sorry, I
Yep.
didn't see that.
It kind of blended into old
Yeah,
business.
it
Yeah.
did, yeah, it did, yeah.
Right, so what has come up from, the discussions with Mr. Sanborn and, Alan Strickland is that there's an area along the, Bicknell Brook Trail that goes from Grafton Pond down to, Boys Camp Road. And up on the loop, the lower loop, there is a large area of field that had been periodically mowed in the past. And, the town has done that at times. Alan Strickland has done it at other times. But the town has, volunteered to do that mowing. And I wanted to point out that we need to just approve them to do that.
I'm good with it.
So we just vote to say that the Conservation Commission approves the Department of Public Works to mow the open spaces along the Bicknell Brook.
Yep.
On Grafton Pond Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want a motion and a second for your
Oh,
minutes?
yeah.
though?
I make a motion, we accept.
I thought I did make the motion. I needed a second.
Second.
Yeah, if you say I make a motion, you'll get it into the record. So now you've got it.
That's good.
Okay, so we need to take the vote again.
Yeah, just, you have your motion, your second, so yeah.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, so the next is the new business, and if you brought the material that Mr. Rob Taylor sent to you.
Yep.
There is the town requirements that are supposed to be sent to the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
And I want to just be sure that you read that, because the clerks there are complying with the notification, but we aren't getting the item number 3. It says immediately sign the original application form and 4 copies of the permit application within the signature block. And then it says immediately distribute a copy of the application with 1 complete set of attachments to each of the following bodies: the Municipal Conservation Commission, the local governing body, the planning board. Now, the attachments are the drafts of the plans that are going to be used in these various areas for this wetland permit application type,
Yes.
standard dredge and fill. And we're not getting those, because they're holding the 1 copy they get in the town office. But the regulations from the Department of Environmental Services says that we are supposed to receive a copy. So that's one of the things that is impeding our review of these particular things that the Conservation Commission is supposed to look at. Now, the wetland permits by notification is basically the same thing. And we're supposed to distribute the copy of the applications with 1 complete set of attachments to each of the following groups: the Municipal Conservation Commission, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this brings up the reason that we don't get this information. Now, I have asked them if I could come down there on Thursday evening before the town hall closes, take those maps and bring them up here to our meetings, and then return them on Friday morning. I've also asked them to keep a list of the people who come to the town hall to actually look at those plans. And basically, nobody does. So it's not as though by taking them out, we would be depriving anybody in the town from looking at them. And since the town hall closes on Thursday and I would bring them back on Friday morning, we wouldn't impinge it on anybody's chance to look at that. So what I would like to do is to have a request sent to the town manager to allow us to do that. If you all agree that that's something we need to be able to look at.
I strongly disagree. If we have 1 copy, it cannot leave that office in anyone's possession.
Why can't they make a copy?
We don't own a large format printer. So if we want to go to the budget committee and as a conservation commission and ask, or you guys could take it from your budget and buy a large format printer, but it's not they're not small.
Oh, okay, I thought it.
We don't have, when I get them for something I'm doing, I send them out to a professional printer and pick them up in West Lebanon. So it's something, it's typically you don't take official copies that I've submitted out of a place and bring them back because you lose chain of custody. So, I mean, you guys are welcome to submit whatever, I just won't support it.
Another thing that confuses me also is in the responsibility thing, it says distribute. Then in special notes, it says sign, we're supposed to sign it too. It says like, this should be signed by us and all the other people involved. But it doesn't really say that unless it's being signed immediately, right when it shows up. And the clerk is supposed to be making copies.
It's being, well, you're,
It's just was
What page are you
confusing.
looking
I'm looking at the front page. This one right here, the front page.
that's the
It
wrong
expert-
page. You're ahead of the game.
Oh,
You've got to look, you're on the wetland permit application type. We're on the wetland and shoreline permit application for season.
That's the front page.
This is the front page of the copies that, Rod.
No, that's the same thing I'm looking at, Jerry. It's the wetland and shoreline permit, exactly the same, this is the same thing.
It-
You just read it to me.
And it's expedited.
Yeah, I was just confused. It says immediately sign, so it sounds like we should be there to immediately sign it.
No, that's the clerk that signs it.
Well, then,
Yeah, this is town and city clerk responsibilities.
yeah, but then on the special notes, it says here for expedited applications, if the application is administratively complete, except for the signed statement from the Conservation Commission. So, I don't know.
The
Is it-
signed statement of the Conservation
Pro-
Commission has basically been abrogated by the legislature. They used to have a position there that the Conservation Commission would sign off
Okay.
as intending to investigate.
Okay,
Now, when the person who wants to do these kinds of things submits the application,
okay,
the Conservation Commission no longer has, the right to go onto the property and look at it unless the individual gets, permission from the landowner.
okay.
So in some ways, that expedited application information is out of date because of what the legislature did last
Yeah.
session.
Okay.
Can we just, you just get the application and not, the maps? Obviously, that's another story, if they can't
So-
copy the maps and stuff like that.
Ed offered to use a phone to scan the plan and send it out as a PDF. So if you guys want to take him up on that,
Okay.
I certainly could do that. It's that you're not gonna get to take that out.
Yeah,
just to go-
Understood.
I think that makes sense, though. I mean, it's really bad for the environment to just start copying
No,
things.
I'm okay with that too.
I think if you guys want that in PDF format, that's a very good solution.
I'm okay with that.
I am too.
Carolyn?
Yeah,
All right, so then we will, ask Mr. Morris to send us a PDF of all of the application material that is submitted for dredge and fill permit applications.
Yeah.
And for wetland permit by
And
notification.
that would comply to this.
Right.
would it be a reach to, add one more page to the actual form?
It's not our form.
It's not a form?
No, it's not our
It's
form.
a state.
Yeah,
the
so we
state's
get
form.
whatever form the state has.
Right. What were you looking for, Carol?
Just if they had one more copy, then they could distribute one to us.
The, person who is applying for it is the one who submits the maps.
Right,
And
that's
to
the
make
problem.
another copy would require him to pay more money for the architect to copy another copy.
okay.
So the best thing to do is to get a PDF of the material that's submitted,
Okay.
all the material
Okay, I
that's
see.
submitted to the
It's
town.
not a form, it's.
Right, if
yeah.
the state
I
required
gotcha.
them to submit an extra, then we could get it.
I
That's the
gotcha.
problem is
Yeah, go.
we're like kind of stuck in that middle ground.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Oh my, but I have a question. I've done a lot of reading this past week. Lots of notes. My question is this, like it says, there's a difference between the standard dredge and fill and the expedited. And I think they're just talking about the expedited application, which is a minimum impact
Right.
project. So I guess that just meant for the expedited.
Well, it says standard dredge and fill wetland permit application or expedited. So either way, in my impression, in my estimation, the Conservation Commission should be looking at
Oh,
all
yeah.
of the regulations
Sure, no,
and
right.
all of the information that is supplied with the form.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that the Conservation Commissions are supposed to do is to be the eyes and ears of the DES. They do
Right.
not have enough manpower to come out and look at everything.
I understand that.
Their response, we're basically responsible for calling attention to them of anything we feel is
Right.
at risk or is going to be a risk for the wetlands. Because basically that's all we have any jurisdiction over. We cannot do anything with shoreland permits. We have no control over forestry.
Right,
The only thing we have any input to, according to the regulations now, are wetland permits and
Yeah.
prime wetland permits.
Yep. Got it. Okay,
The,
I'm good.
what is, I started studying this and I said, this is way out of my league, that environmental weight 310.02. I started looking that stuff up and I interpreted as things that they use to weight their decision on. Right on the bottom here, I started looking up, there's a whole bunch of those right here.
Oh, yeah.
I started looking those up, there's a whole list of them, like vegetation.
Are you on page 2?
On page 1, on the same thing, the first thing, right here, under
Oh,
special
okay.
notes. I
You
did,
signed the RSAs.
yeah, I didn't know if you could give me a quick description of what those are. I started reading them and I said, just wait, I was just curious, that's all, just curious.
Well,
I don't
those
want,
RSAs are all a whole series of RSAs, and they are in that material that I handed out to you sometime in June.
yeah,
That big, and those are all listed
yeah,
as to what basically they cover. And I don't think the RSAs here are in Appendix 3, and they're not.
no, they usually don't list those. It was just a curious
Yep.
question. Because
Well, those, they're not just curiosities.
No,
They're things that are supposed to be addressed by the person filling out the
Right.
application. And are supposed to be compliant with. And those are the things, again, that the Conservation Commission is supposedly going to be helpful to the DES by pointing out to them that the application is incomplete because it didn't address that particular issue on their application form.
Yep.
So that's just one. There are a whole string of them.
yes,
So
thanks.
I'm emailing you, Jerry, so that, and linking you to Ed, so you can put in the request, but just so that everybody on this commission is clear, no one can compel the town clerk to do anything because they report to the voters only. So we can put in the request, Ed will do his best to coordinate and, we'll see what we can get.
Well, I thought Mr. Morris was gonna make a PDF and send that to
So
us.
he said they can, but no, we can't compel any
No,
town
I'm not
clerk.
asking them to do anything. I'm asking him to ask.
But she is the record, or the town clerk is the record holder, so we can do our very best. But even though it says immediately, like you can't even make the town clerk hold office hours. I'm not saying that ours doesn't, I'm just saying the select board and the town manager's office has no control over the town clerk. Just, that's one
So
of
the
those,
town clerk is not an employee of Enfield?
they are an employee of the Enfield voters. It's one of those fun things in New Hampshire law. It's,
Very
New Hampshire law is very complicated, trust me, so just I wanna be fair to you guys, cause I think they'll do their very best for you, but
So no surprises that we,
So there's not,
New Hampshire.
there's not any point in us asking Ed Morris.
No, you
to
can,
ask her?
no, he's gonna do his best to facilitate, so I'm sending that email as a reminder to both of you to get together, see what we can
Okay.
get. So, but
Great.
I just, like, we're kind of the interpreter in the middle of a thing that doesn't actually belong to us,
Got it.
right?
Yep.
I know. New Hampshire has lots of fun rules.
Well, they're all
Me too.
obstructionary to getting anything done, but at any rate, that's the way it goes. Okay, so that's the first page. The page 2 of the first, application, shows you that the city and town clerk signature is not required for routine roadway maintenance. It's not required for shoreland permit applications. And it's not required for the shoreland permit application notification. So those go directly to the DES. And according to the letter I received, the Conservation Commission has no input to shoreland applications. So we don't get any of that information, and, well, we do get the application, but we're not required to put anything out. Okay, so the next page is wetland permit application standard review. That's where our job is basically specified. And the thing is, the Conservation Commission has 14 days to notify the DES if they want to intervene.
Mhm.
So that will be an important part of us getting the plans by PDF from the town, so we can see whether there's something there that we think needs to be investigated or intervened on. That's the time limit. That's the time that if it comes after the regular meeting session here, which is the first Thursday of the month, we will have to call a special meeting to review that material. And I will expect a quorum of the members to show up for that particular exercise.
Well,
So it says here that the commission should be notified at once by the town clerk as soon as an application is received. Now, is that directive to the town clerk coming from the state required? Then she will actually have to do that?
You don't want the answer. The state can make, yeah, potentially. I mean, you try to get the state of New Hampshire to do anything. It's a very complex, very antiquated system in which the town clerk has a lot of autonomy. And so other than being required to live in Enfield and not commit a major crime, there aren't, and be approved by the state, I don't know how much oversight they'd get. The state would have to answer that.
I talked to Wendy Huntley.
Wendy's super nice, right?
I
We're
know,
lucky
but
to have
Is she
her.
the town clerk?
She is our town clerk. So if Wendy agrees to do it for you, you are,
Yeah, she's done that very well
Yeah.
all along.
Yeah. so.
She is the only town clerk. The other one that sits there at the same desk with her is not a town clerk.
We have a deputy town clerk and they're part-time and they are an employee of the town.
Okay, but the deputy isn't the one that's supposed to be doing this. This is the town clerk. So this is Wendy Huntley at all times.
Yeah, and I'm not doing this to give you a hard time. It's very complicated, right?
No, I
Like it's
can
taken
see
me
that
years
now.
of
You can prepare.
So
it.
who is Wendy's boss?
the voters, the voting body of
Mhm.
Enfield. Period.
So she doesn't report directly to any one person.
You can't, that's what the state law
She's
is.
voted in, right?
Yep,
She's voted in.
like I report to the voters. The similar setup.
How many reports do you get?
No, we report like, you know,
At the meeting of the select?
you know, it's the perennial balance of power and questions about how things work are interesting.
Okay, so,
Mhm.
if you go down to wetland permit by notification, you'll see that the Conservation Commission is not required to sign. The DES can approve a permit by notification within 25 days, so we don't have any input there. The only thing we have input in is the wetland permit application standard review.
what does it mean by notification? That kind of always throws me.
They
What's the
just send in a thing to the DES saying, this is what we want to do.
Okay,
And the DES says yes or no. But they're just notifying the DES that that's their intent. If the DES doesn't like their intent, then it's up to them to say so, but we don't have any input.
is it a different application?
The, yes, it's be titled this same thing, wetland permit by notification. So it would come to us as a wetland permit by notification, PBN.
But it isn't actually an application, it's just they're saying we're gonna do this, and
No, they have to fill out what they're gonna do in the application, but it
Mm.
doesn't come to us. It goes to the town clerk. And then it goes, it goes directly to the DES.
They pay for that, right? They pay a fee?
Oh, sure, the fees are quite
Yes, they are. I saw that.
substantial if you're gonna do anything
Yep.
very, very big.
Mhm.
See, it says, if you look at the shoreland permit by notification, it says the town clerk signature is not required. And I think that's the same situation for the wetland permit by notification.
Right.
So I want you to just keep these points in mind because this is one of the places where we have some opportunity for an input as far as environmental issues are concerned. The rest of the wetland permit application types are culvert repair, utility maintenance, forestry statutory permits, trail statutory permits, and seasonal dock notifications, none of which the Conservation Commission has any input for.
Yep.
Okay, and the,
Could I ask a question here? I have heard that if you get rejected to, if you request, wetlands fill in, you know, if you want to.
Reg and Phil,
Yeah, and you applied and you're rejected, that after the fact, you can actually fill only a certain amount every year.
I'm not familiar with that. If you're rejected from that application, I'm not sure whether you are allowed to do anything until you file a new application indicating this partial situation. The trouble is that the wetlands, and that's one of the things that I also want to bring out in the correspondence. The wetlands in the entire United States are being destroyed
Yeah.
on a regular basis. And basically, the problems with wetlands here in New Hampshire resides in Concord. The legislature down there is constantly revising the regulations for environmental intrusions in favor of development and construction. And that's the biggest problem, because we don't have people there in enough capacity to understand what's going on. Now, that may change for Enfield, but he's only going to be one vote against all the rest of them. And that's basically why I have begun to think that the conservation commissions here are spinning their wheels and getting nowhere. Because we are faced with this constant intrusion by the legislature, who are answering to the pressures that are put on them by the real estate organizations, the development people. And as long as tax dollars and the economy take precedent over natural resources and preservation, then I think most of the southern part of New Hampshire is already lost. I've gotten comments from people who are on conservation commissions in the southern part of New Hampshire who pointed out that basically they're already finished. I had a guy call us when we were trying to get this 100 acres set aside as a town forest. I had somebody in Wickham or someplace down there call me and say how great it is because I can't even get 40 acres to set aside. So that's, that's thumbnail sketching my impression of what's going on here, but there's nothing we can do about that.
We gotta keep trying
We
and
got-
plugging.
Yeah, and educate
And
people.
people, they care, they really care. And,
Well, if they care, they should turn up then to the elections and so forth. I went to the candidates night last night. The Republican candidate didn't even show up, so
Oh.
basically they might as well have selected a pig because he ain't gonna get any votes at all. David Frack was there and made some reasonable comments about what he was going to try and do, but recognizing that he's only one man in a legislature filled with others. In any event, I'm very disappointed where there's 3,000 registered voters in this town. There were 18 that came to the candidates night. And when the people who are running the elections see that 400 turn up to the town meetings to vote, they think they've accomplished one hell of a lot. And so there's basically a lack of interest on the part of the town here in terms of taking control over what's going to happen to their community. That's my impression. Anyway, you don't need to record that.
We've had a lot of conversations, because I'm always there, I have to be there, and about how to turn people out and why they don't turn out. And one of the conversations that's been had that I'll share is that there's a certain amount of when you ask somebody why they didn't vote, if they're happy with how things are going in general, they often don't show up. So people show up to vote when something is very controversial. And Enfield often doesn't have anything that's good controversial.
when I lived on Georgia, a lot of people, they could have cared less. They have their property, they hunt, they fish. They're, sometimes they're big clans that live on the same property, and that's their government, and that's all they care. It doesn't go beyond that space.
But you guys are doing, you have a lot planned in terms of education. I think if you focus on Enfield and don't get
Yeah.
discouraged about
I'm not,
legislation, I think
You're right.
you guys are doing really good work and you have good.
Thank you.
The small picture, we need to just do what we can. You're right. You can't get
as
discouraged.
long as you know we're doing
And
it.
Enfield has incredible resources already preserved. We're very fortunate if we can figure out how to keep the stormwater from washing them all away.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of the purposes of the wetlands.
So if you look at the next page, the environmental wetland, 31105, there is a list of 19 things that the applicant shall provide the following information on.
Mhm.
That's the material. And it goes on the page 2, that we are basically supposed to evaluate the application from. And if they don't have those things, then it's our job to notify the DES that this application is not complete because of that thing. And you'll see in the correspondence that I've gotten from the DES notifications of incomplete applications. So it would help them if we were in a position to tell them initially that this application is not complete because of these omissions. Then they know exactly what to look for instead of having to go through the whole thing.
And they have to fill out all of these.
Every single one of those things,
Has to be
if it's
filled out.
relevant to their application, should be complete, and most of them are.
And this
And it
is
says
just
here,
wetlands.
in A, it says the application shall provide the following information on one or more plan sheets that conform to C below. And C below is, C below, I just saw it. Oh, each plan sheet shall include 1 item through 5. So this is where looking at getting the plan sheet is important, because we can then look at the 1 through 5 elements and see if those have been included on the plan sheet. I mean, basically, if we do our job, the Conservation Commission is not a free ride to get your name in the annual report. We've got to do some work. Okay, so enough of that.
Okay.
Mr. Sanborn, do you have any comments about materials that you have assessed?
Yeah, I would like to report to the commission that on Monday, I called for a gathering of the people who have replied to our ads and so forth, and it turns out to be 3, not 2. We had a rather lively discussion and meet and greet and so forth, and I think we can say we've got a strong crew here, or at least a potential of it. And I have also been talking with the sawyer who would have to custom saw the rough sawn hemlock to be used for planks or stringers on the bog bridges. And I also find that the standard dimensions for that in the business are 3 by 8 by 8 foot long. A 3 by 8, of course, is 50% more depth than the 2 by 8, and that means that the bridges, the planks, the stringers, are the same thing. This type of bridge are actually, these bridges are much stiffer to walk on than if you had only 8 foot span of 2 bys. Right. So it really makes sense to do that. I find that the difference in cost is going to be, well, we're going to have to pay $20 per plank of sawn hemlock. This is $24 a plank, but you have a much stronger bridge as a result. So I think it's what.
Okay, so we need to have that put down as a request for expenditure and submit it to us so we can vote on it and have it in writing, what you need and how much it's gonna cost. Now, the other thing, I have received a telephone call from Alan Strickland.
Yes.
Pointing out that he has been in the past responsible for the bridges and trail maintenance on the private property.
What
He
does
wants-
that mean, private property?
There are private properties apparently that the Bicknell Trail goes through, not just all town property.
Yeah,
And he wants to continue being responsible for that because he has agreements with the property owners to take care of those particular parts of the trail.
mhm.
So my feeling is that you should confine your activities to the town-owned properties on these trails.
Okay. Of
And
course, it would help if I would know just
yes,
which ones they are and,
I have to get, I think that that's the place that you should contact Mr.
Alan,
Strickland
yeah.
and ask him,
Mhm.
where does the town property end and where does the private property that you want to be involved with start?
mm-hmm,
I think it's only along the Bicknell Brook, because the property, the trail around Harrisbrook Park is basically owned by the town.
yeah, it's all town land.
And the trails, up to the, ponds along the Conservation District property, there are 3 of them there. That's all, Upper Valley Land Trust or, New Hampshire Department of Fish and Game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing in the way of private property up there.
Down towards, Boys Camp Road, maybe?
Boys Camp Road, the trail that goes down along Bicknell Brook from Boys Camp Road, from the maps that I have, primarily go onto, land that's owned by the Upper Valley Land Trust
Okay.
that the Conservation Commission is supposedly responsible for. There is a place, and I don't know whether she sold it or not, but right where Bicknell Brook empties into Crystal Lake, there was a piece of property there that was owned by Carol, whose last name escaped me. She used to be in the town office.
I think we just have to ask Alan.
Yeah, well, he's never mentioned anything about being responsible for any of the.
You're talking about Carolee,
Yeah, this
that's
is
not where it
Carol
empties,
Lee's
that's where it intersects with Boys Camp Road.
Hmm.
Carolee is where the Boys
You mean
Camp Road.
Carol Lee Higby?
Yes,
Okay, right.
who's Eisner now.
I know, but.
I know, so many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think there's an
Now, from
easement
the
through
map
there.
that I have here, Carol Lee's property was at the foot of, that trail where it emptied into, and you're saying it's at the start. Because that's not what the town map shows.
So I'm on the town map right now, so Carolee's property is 11 and.
What map is it?
Let's see. Hang on, let me see, it'll pull me it's 009, so I assume that's the map number
Right.
-11.
Let's see if I can put it on the other side of.
Mm-hmm.
They had something, yeah.
Well, according to that, 1-1 is right down where the Bicknell Brook enters into Crystal Lake, because the other one is up by the border of Enfield and Grafton.
I don't know, I'm looking at it right here.
Well,
So this is Carolee right here, and then there's Boys
Yeah,
Camp.
that's where, I know where her house is.
And this is,
this is what the map shows. That is Carol Lee's, 1-1 here. Carol Lee Eisner, R5. And, she has the map. And this is the way Bicknell Brook runs.
I don't know.
Right, but this Boys Camp Road there,
Yeah,
the lake is down here.
yeah, the Boys Camp doesn't run along the lake.
Yeah, so this is right along Boys Camp, so this is, right at this,
Yeah.
right where you
We're
stand,
looking at the same thing,
yeah.
but it's
Okay.
not, the lake is further down.
Yeah, you misread that,
Oh,
Joey, yeah,
that's Boys
yeah, the
Camp.
lake's way down here.
I beg your
No,
pardon.
that's okay. It's, you know me, I'm.
All right,
with
so
my-
she goes to the upper
The
part.
touchscreen.
Now, that's something you need to
Mhm.
talk to. I don't know that Alan Strickland said anything about
Mhm.
about having anything to do with that trail from Boys Camp down to Crystal Lake.
Yeah, I certainly haven't heard anything of the sort either. I don't even know if that's considered a town trail, it's still called.
Well, he claims
Is it
that
an
it's the
easement?
town, part of the town trail.
Right.
Do we have an easement maybe to pass
Yes, you
over?
have an easement, and yes, that we get Yeah, I went through that process. Yeah, it's from Grafton Pond Road all the
Okay.
way down.
Cause there's a bunch of like fragments there it
Yes.
crosses.
Yeah, we get easements on all of them.
Mhm.
That was a big project, I remember. I was not involved, but I remember you guys spent a lot of time on it.
Cool.
All right, so the next item is the,
May I say something?
Yes, go
Because
ahead.
I was here and there and everywhere. I did not get this. Craig sent me this wonderful thing, because I'm gonna do the farmer's market when it's time for me to make the spiel about getting the volunteers, go
Yeah.
down there at the farmer's market. And Craig sent me this beautiful verbiage, you know, the spiel I could give.
Mhm.
And I came down, the town made copies. Would you like to, I mean, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let me
Craig.
know when you're doing that, 'cause I get the pen, and I'll bring
Yeah,
it, I'll
If
bring it
it's
down.
really heavy, I can't.
No, I'm
can't-
gonna do it, My
Really?
son and I can set it up,
Oh,
yeah.
God love you, because we did buy one of those little tiny light ones.
Yeah.
At one
we'll
point,
get
it
set.
was like a pop-up, you know, just, but he said this thing is a
I
monster.
mean, we own it, the town, I mean, the Conservation Commission owns
Yeah.
it, so we might as well use it.
Okay. See how
So-
pretty it looks, Craig? Can you
Yeah.
see that?
I
Here,
see it's there.
yeah, it looks
How
really
many
nice.
copies you've got tonight, like? six
I've
months?
got, yes, I made enough because I wanted you to see what I've been trying to do. And I've got my
nice.
next question.
Thank you.
See how nice that looks?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
If,
here.
if you want anything laminated, so that you have it for a rock on it or something.
I thought
I'm
I
happy to.
would bring down like
Or
old
if it
hiking
happens
boots
to
and
rain.
cross-country skis
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's right.
snowshoes,
Don't say
backpacks,
our
and just
word.
sort of try to hang them around, you know, to give a little flair to the thing. And,
We can bring the big maps down too,
oh,
yeah.
yes, that you
And I get the
presented.
easels, we can put them up, so just tell me what date you wanna
Yeah.
set it up, so I can make sure I get it on my calendar. Get
Because
the tent set up.
we wanted to wait till the bugs went. And do we, for people to get on the trails before we even started the ball rolling? And wasn't there something that Mr. Morse had to agree
he
to?
already has.
Oh, okay,
I think we're in good shape.
and,
He claimed that, all he needed was a description of the responsibilities that the trail master would have,
Mhm.
and that he at that point didn't need to take it to the select board, that he could approve
okay,
the volunteer state. Now, Mr. Sanborn, you are gonna keep a list of the volunteers, right? It's not gonna,
he did
Hmm?
it.
A list of volunteers.
Did I?
that you can call on. I mean,
Yes.
the point is that it's not gonna be my responsibility or anybody on the Conservation
Says
Commission to
everything
contact the
that
volunteers. You're gonna take that
That's-
responsibility.
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe I'll
that's right.
laminate
Okay,
it,
great.
put it, you
That's
know,
all I
and then
needed to know.
people
Mhm.
might.
And Craig, either I can export,
Yeah.
the form
Yeah,
for
Yeah,
you,
well,
or they
I'm
can.
gonna tell you guys something here.
Mhm.
Lee,
Yes,
okay, the last sentence is to contact me.
yes, we
Uh,
take that out.
Yeah, you gotta take that out because the proper entity to contact is the town office, according to Elisa.
Okay, I can do, okay. Okay, that, I saw that, and that's like invasion of privacy here anyway, so,
Yeah, and also it's just a matter of, contact the town office in the unlikely event I am not, in the near future, the trail master, then still the, so-called institution can remain by contacting the town office, but not me.
that's, and did we agree on the volunteer, single day volunteer sign-in? Is one of these better than the other? Say somebody wanted to sign up at the booth? Or is this they do it the day they arrive?
They do it the day they arrive. It's a, waiver.
Okay, so
Like
I don't
every
have to
other one
worry
out
about
there.
them doing,
Yeah, they don't do that here.
okay,
The only purpose of this is to attract people to sign up at the, by way of the town office.
when, the day of the work,
Right.
the work day,
No,
we'll have it, that's when they're
At
gonna
the-
sign up.
At the farmer's market.
That, we don't need them at the farmer's market,
Certainly not.
no.
We just collect like contact information.
Contact information, okay, do I have that on?
I can make you a QR code.
That would, oh, a QR. A month and I'm still trying to get a QR code on my thing.
I'll help you. Well, hang on.
Okay,
Right.
so I have do I have a sheet for them to, we have, these are when they come and sign up, but if they want to leave contact information,
Yeah,
I can just export that list we had made before, that was the electronic form,
yeah,
and make it into an easy to fill
thank you.
paper one.
And so when do you think I should do this president? I think it's gonna be fun, because there's one thing I love to do is that talk.
Your
So-
next market, the next market is the 26th of August. So that's pretty.
Is that too soon, or should we,
What, when?
26th of August, I'll go down there and,
I won't be around that day.
You wanted September 9th?
Okay,
September.
this is an ongoing thing, and the idea is to attract volunteers who can sign up to the town office.
yes,
It ain't an even or thing, it's a, just please do that every time you have your, event. That,
you mean the market,
whenever you're having your market,
September 9th, is that good?
Yeah, I'm fine. That 26th, that's next week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh
I'm
my
leaving. I'm gonna
God,
be out of town.
no,
I'm just reading you the dates.
I'm gonna be out of town.
Okay.
Well, I can't, I mean, obviously someone else
No,
could sit up the
no,
tent, but
no,
I
let's
just,
do
I
it the
won't be
9th,
around.
because, yeah, no, if you and your, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
9th, so do I have to apply to the market?
I'm gonna just, I'm writing an email to Kevin right now. And
Okay,
you, as a town group, you get a free space, so.
okay, good, because we've talked about this, so we
What's the
get it
date
on the
again on
road.
that? 9?
9th, and also the
The
voice,
9th?
the 9th of September,
Okay.
is it 10 to 2?
10 to 1.
Oh, good, I don't have to bring my wine then. So, I got in touch with Joel finally,
Mhm.
and he could not make tonight's meeting. And he
That's the
was,
Scoutmaster.
I'm sorry, the Scoutmaster. And so he was gonna talk to some Scoutmaster named Bill.
Mhm.
To tell him he couldn't make it, but I never heard from Bill and whether he got a chance. So
Mhm.
anyway, he said he could come the third Thursday next month. And I said, no, the meeting, so I'm gonna communicate more with him. He's been out of town. That's why he's not here, so I'll pick up the ball, cause they're really interested.
And this is regard to a bench that they want.
At the bench and also, going over trail, brook trail and identifying trees, and we were gonna make a pamphlet and have a little box, so when hikers come, they can take it for information. We used to do that. I had to fill it all the time. People really utilize that, or is that?
With the idea of taking out pamphlets, what's the possibility of them just throwing along the trail and making a mess rather than having the signs to nail on the tree saying this tree is that or what? What do you think about that, Greg?
the more opportunity you give them to take a pamphlet and throw it away, the more they're gonna throw it away. It is far better to go with, to go with what they have now, I think, which is, numbers on plaques you nail to a tree, you gotta nail carefully. Leave some of the heads sticking out, about a half inch of nail to allow for tree growth. Can get the sign. And they will hold on to the pamphlet if they have to use that in order to, see what the different numbers for the sentences on the pamphlet mean corresponding to the numbers on the trees.
Right,
As opposed to identifying the tree on the sign that you nail to it.
Well, yeah, you can do that too. This means you're gonna have more signs.
Oh,
Elaborate signs.
well, are you gonna identify every tree along the
no,
trail?
it's gonna be like, this is an oak, this is a white pine, this is whatever, there's some old farm implements used to be there.
Well, if they get a identification of one tree, they ought to be able to take the leaves with them and identify the others that are similar.
Oh, yeah, it's
Well,
only,
first of all-
only one tree, one family of tree will be identified, all the other oaks will be, oh, I know what that is. You know, or a maple or sumac, poison ivy, that's a good one,
Well,
yeah.
I talked this over with the Scoutmaster. but
yes.
I personally would rather see the signs identify the tree rather than them carrying a pamphlet, because when they're done with the pamphlet, I know where it's going.
Okay,
And it's going on the ground.
I'm gonna throw out too, at the head of the trail when you're doing a sign. You don't always have service everywhere, but a QR code will, again, you guys have a spot on the websites. And you actually have a lot of really great information in the Conservation Commission website. There's a bunch of great links, so there's an opportunity there to put some links in, so it could just link somebody over to give them additional information that you wouldn't be able to fit on a sign too, right?
That's always good.
And somebody who wants to take the initiative, like I walk up in Boston, there's a lot of public art. It's a small sign.
Yeah.
You zap the QR code. I mean, there's opportunities for problems, but if it takes you to a town of Enfield website for Conservation Commission and shows you Bicknell Brook,
So the
Maple, oak,
conservation
blah,
probably
blah.
lets use of paper.
Do
Right.
most people carry their cell phones when they're on a hike?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I always
Yes.
do. I would
Yes.
never go in.
mine-
And then
yeah.
that's an alternative.
Yeah.
You can use them.
And a lot of them you can use as a GPS, but a lot of people are just using them to track their steps and where they went.
Yeah.
And what about the reception? I mean, on George Hill, you don't get any cell phone reception where I live.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I went up to like Butternut and Half Moon and had surprisingly good service because I went off. Yeah, it's like, depends on the day and the time of the year and how much tree cover you have. So
Yeah.
I think people walk in and out of it. A lot of the counters, I think they're used to, they adapt, they drop and pick back up.
Yeah,
So it won't work everywhere, but I think it's an opportunity.
we can try, but if they see it and they're interested, they'll go look it up. People stop in front of the house all the time because they don't get reception between the
The phone-
farm
the phone
and
booth.
Seeley's house. So they stop there and make their calls. You can always see the light of the, yeah.
They stop under my apple tree.
Yeah, so, okay, so I will do that September 9th. I
Mhm.
wish I could find some, what are the Leohosen, the hiking joint.
Oh, yeah.
We can order those for you too.
But anyway, okay, thank you, Greg, but this was a beautiful thing that you
Right,
came up with.
right.
Yep.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
yes, adding up materials still in my head at the moment, I have some numbers on paper here. I am finding that the total expected cost of materials for building the bridges and moving the existing one, all materials, mind you, would total about $400.
Fine. I mean, put this into a formal,
Paper,
paper and send it to the Conservation Commission so that we can vote on it and, then authorize the treasurer to send the money, to whoever you're buying the material from.
I think that he wants us to buy it. Is that what you wanted? That's what I thought you wanted us to do, to buy it.
Yes.
well, my impression is that, once a expenditure is approved, then I get reimbursed
Okay.
for, what I spend to get the materials.
Oh, okay.
We have accounts.
That's easier.
We have accounts though, like with La Valleys and stuff, where
So
we'd have a
you do.
discount. Yeah, the
Uh,
town will have an account
right.
for La Valleys.
The question is, does this commission have the, authority to draw on that or to use that?
No. We
Um,
do have the authority to ask the treasurer to send a check against the account of the Conservation Fund to whomever we direct it. That's in the RSA's and it's in this booklet.
Very good.
so town purchasing policy covers every town organization, and so this would be under $2,000. So you could, DPW typically accesses La Valleys, so he could give the list, coordinate to get a purchase order from La Valleys, and then the check could go
Sorry,
to pay
I'm
it.
not understanding. Who do I use this to?
I would check in, either, probably the best person to start with is Rob, since he's our contact.
Rob Taylor.
But I don't know if it's Jim or who typically places the purchase orders, but they could place the purchase order, so you don't have to front the money, get our established discount, and then the conservation fund could pay the bills, I
Right.
believe, however.
The, last matter would be that, you don't have an account with the sawmill that would be sawing out the hemlock
Mhm.
and the valleys can't get it.
Yep, and that's something, just ask Jim, because often they obviously,
Excuse me, Jim, who?
Taylor.
Yep.
I think it's
How
either,
many tailors are there here?
oh, we have two of them. There's a trifecta of Taylor Brothers, but we're missing one.
Okay.
They're both
Let me
here
ask
in
you
this
this question.
Yeah.
Do you have the resources to pay for this out of your own pocket and then wait until the town that moves as slow as molasses sometimes, or the?
You mean molasses running uphill in January?
Right,
Oh.
because this has to go to the treasurer first. she has to write the check to you. Or if you can deal with the valleys directly, you won't be out of pocket. I just don't want to make this a financial burden for you.
Right,
Do you think about that?
all right. I've thought about it, and I think that the idea of for me, fronting the money would be, not crippling, but it would be
Mhm.
inconvenient.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Craig, what's your email?
CRGSNBRN,
There you are.
my name, no vowels.
Yes, okay.
So, okay, so if you submit us the cost list, we'll get that approved. You tell me where you want to buy the materials,
Mhm.
and then I can get the treasurer to send a check to them out of the conservation fund.
Okay,
I think that's the easiest way, because I don't want a financial burden on you to result in you resigning as the trailmaster. We've worked on this for 2 years, and I don't want this to go up in smoke for the sake of a few dollars.
quite right, thank you.
Sound good?
Then,
Sounds good.
can I contact you like tomorrow with that list?
You can email it to me anytime.
That's what I mean.
Yes, you have my email address?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, of course. And
Okay.
note on it that you want this to be purchased from the valleys or wherever.
Mhm.
And the business about the sawing, I need some explanation about that. Where's the hemlock gonna come from?
I tend to buy it from Wright's Portable Mill on Route 5 in Micro Junction 1.
Okay,
Richard.
so
Yep.
can you find out what that hemlock tree is gonna cost and put it into that particular?
Yes, they already have.
Okay, good.
The cost for a 3 by 8 by 8 foot is $24.
That's right.
Oh, okay. I thought we were buying a whole tree and then we're gonna cut it up.
Oh, no, that, we buy by the, sawn piece. We know we're going to need a dozen of them.
Okay, and these are basically for any of the bridges along the Bicknell Brook thing. That's as far as you've gone, right?
Yes,
Okay, on the town property, not on the private property.
on town property.
Great, okay. Everybody clear with that and?
Yep.
And,
Yes,
approve it.
and September 9th is the big show.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Mr. Santos.
Craig, thank you for that.
See you, Craig.
I know, I know.
Okay, the next item of business is the forestry statutory permit by notification involving, tax map 16 lot 12. This is a 230 acre parcel owned by Stefan Kovacs that runs along the flow of Crystal Lake. It goes up to Mud Pond.
Hmm.
And he has gotten directions from the Department of Environmental Services for those things which are all delineated there in 1 through 8.
Yep.
I'm just calling this to your attention. We don't have any basic input to that.
Okay. What exactly is the work being done?
That's this one. Right here.
Oh, that's the next one?
The intent to cut.
Oh, that's the intent
Right.
to cut. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sorry, that's not the intent to
No,
cut.
it's
It's
Smith
the,
Pond Road is.
the Smith Pond, no, that's Smith Pond. Yeah, what he said in 1 to 8.
If you look at map 16, lot 12, you'll see that this is, and the July 27th, 2023 notice from the map number 12 is 230 acres that runs from Lock Haven Road, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
All
Right
the
up
way-
along Mud Pond, yeah.
Now, how far up that's gonna cut, it doesn't say, because we don't have a intent to cut
Okay.
comment from Julie Huntley.
Okay.
At least I don't think I did.
No, I was expecting you'd have one, but
Well, maybe I do down here. I got some others that,
is it out of?
but I don't see the lot. Anyway, we may get to it. Okay, so that's just for your notification. That area has some sensitive environmental regions in it up by
Yeah.
Bud Pond.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And, I don't know where he's going to cut unless he puts in, some specific intent to cut permit, which he should, because the town is gonna expect taxes from that forestry harvest.
Okay.
Okay, so, the next one is a notice of intent to cut wood or timber involving, 43 and 46, lots 43 and 46. They want to cut 30 acres, and this is map 6, lot 40 and 41.
This is the golf course, right?
I didn't know we were putting in a golf course.
We have a golf course.
Well, calm.
Oh, Mont-
Enfield Land Company is the golf
Oh.
course.
You bought my property. I own a little wetland over there.
Okay, so I've been up to that Montcalm golf course. I didn't know it was town owned. I thought it was owned by a private.
No, it's.
No, I'm saying we, like, our town has one in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Enfield Land Company is a private ordinance.
Right. I tried to get them to, allow us to put some game cameras on there to see to what extent golf courses were being used as corridors, because that area dovetails into a region that is, along Smith Pond.
Right.
And the owner of the property lives in Florida, but she happened to come up there when I was around, and she said, no, we don't want anybody photographing our golfers. So that's the end of that idea. Okay, moving on. Another intent to cut wood on Potato Road. The acreage is 172 acres. They intend to cut on 60 acres. And Mrs. Huntley has told me that it doesn't mean they're gonna cut all 60 acres. It just means that they're gonna cut on 60 acres. So
Selective.
that, no, it's not selective, because if you look at the right-hand side of that application, you see that they're gonna cut 60,000 feet of board of white
Right,
pine, 25,000 feet of hemlock, so on and so forth. And there's gonna be 100,000 tons of, chips.
Grafton Pond Land Trust has always done logging.
Yeah.
So, okay. The next one is, on map 15, lot 80, 81, and 82, intend to cut, on Shaker Hill Road.
Mhm.
Acreage of a lot is 23.3, and they intend to cut on 19 acres.
Mhm.
And that's by, Nancy
Nancy Smith, the bed and breakfast.
Smith, okay. All right.
She has
so
the forestry back.
I don't know whether they're cutting this just because the timber is old and needs to be harvested, or whether they're trying to clear land for a development of some, or a
No,
house.
they have a business there already
right.
existing.
All right, the last one is the map 1, lot 3. Which is, 672 Bog Road.
That's Nicole's site, she,
Yeah, she's a writing
course.
academy person.
yes.
Is that moving forward at all?
Yeah.
It is?
I
This
grew
is-
up on
okay.
Bog Road because I'm.
Yeah, okay, I remember hearing
She's
about it.
doing a lot of filling in there.
Okay.
And now I don't know what she's clearing.
She's doing the reclamation portion for the pit to put it back.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
because she has to reclaim the pit,
Okay, yeah.
because, it was a gravel pit.
Right,
And she
right.
needs it for the horse's feet too,
Yep.
obviously.
Right.
That's cool.
They went in front of the planning board a couple of times. You can
Yeah.
see her. She's,
Oh, okay.
yeah, if you want to see it on video, there's
That's cool.
more than one.
Okay, the next thing is the announcement that was put onto the town's website by I think Kate, that involves the photo contest from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And I'd like to, the deadline is, I think, September 8th. So it's coming up, and I've been getting updates from the other board members for the New Hampshire Association. And Enfield at one time had the largest number of entrants, but it was only 3. So the rest of the community is, the rest of the New Hampshire has been putting in applications. But, it's not drawing as much attention as the New Hampshire Association thought it would. Anyway, this is your notification. Unfortunately, nobody on the board of directors of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission and no one on the Conservation Commission is eligible to submit photographs. So the only thing you can do is, talk to your friends if they're still interested and let them know that September 8th is the deadline for getting any photographs in.
Do we wanna put a reminder onto the listserv maybe? Cause you know how the town calendar is very popular, maybe if we did that.
You know,
Yeah, can you handle that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. I mean, anything up to, September 8th is fine to advertise it. Beyond that, it's dead issue.
Yeah, I'll just copy what was in the town newsletter and put it up, cause I think, there's a lot of really great photographs here.
Yeah,
Well, the weather hasn't been that great. I mean, it's been cloudy and rainy and people don't like to go out there and you don't get good photographs, but maybe it'll clear up between now and then.
Mhm.
I think this is the 20 and the 10, 12 years that I've lived here. This is the coldest August that I have experienced.
Everything's green, nothing's productive.
Right.
Oh, my green beans.
my tomato plants are like 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
I don't have one tomato.
my green beans and my basil are doing great. Everything else is kind of slow. Well, cucumbers haven't. been bad.
Onions, so many onions.
Yeah, good.
I see my potatoes, I gotta see on my
Yeah,
potatoes.
my tomatoes are just kind of getting yellow, green, and then they just turning yellow and just cracking and drying.
I didn't even get a tomato, I got one little tomato.
I get tomatoes. My Romas are turning, they got black spots all over
I have
them.
a whole entire row that's.
If you guys don't want to be here until 10 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, Jerry.
The next thing is, the budget development for this year. I've received a notice from, Elisa Bonnet that we need to, approve a budget for 2023. And, there is a list in the material that was sent to you, the budget development expenditure report, listed August 15th, 2023. And they have down here under the, Conservation Commission's portion, a list of budget allocations that they have recommended. And some of it is a bit confusing because they have 2023 budget. Then they have next to it 2023 actual. And then between the meeting hearing record, which they've said is $600, then when it comes to actual, it says it's 245. Now, we pay Mrs. Banker out of that meeting hearing record. And I don't think that $245 is gonna cover it. So what I want you to do right now, because we have to send this into Ms. Burnett. You got this?
No, I didn't get it.
No, it's not in the packet. I got a Mascoma Bank statement of our savings
that's
account.
all I
That's
got.
all I got.
Can we just have them pull what we paid last year and give it an escalator of some kind?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I need to have the board agree that last year's budget is what we need, so I can send that information to Mrs. Burnett. They said that I talked to Shirley, cause she's on the budget committee, and she said that the budget for 2023 is in the annual report, but I looked under the conservation thing on page 101, and it doesn't list anything about the 2023 budget.
Okay, let me,
So
oh,
I don't
it's,
know what they have
yeah,
done.
it's annual report of 2022 is what it would be. That would have been where it lives. I think is what she's
Yeah,
saying, the.
That's right. It's on page 101.
So what do you want us to do, just to prove what's there? Is that what you're?
Well, that got us by just fine this year.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in reality, there are some areas, but they can switch out. If you overspend in one category, they can take it out of the other, but
Right.
we don't need $100 for supplies. Because the town is providing all of the material that Rob is sending out. First of all, second of all, we got $25 put aside for postage. I don't mail anything anymore. Then we got $100 for miscellaneous, $200 for professional development. Now, that's to cover costs of transportation and so on, if you go to a
Meetings.
meeting of some kind.
Yeah.
And who goes to those meetings?
I zoom in at a lot of like the, New Hampshire Lake Association, things like that. I go in on those, but they're
You
free.
go by,
Zoom,
yeah, but that's not an expenditure on your part.
No,
Like if
We're
we had to
talking
pay a
about
fee
stuff
to
we
go
have to go
somewhere.
to it and pay a fee to get in. And most of this stuff is now sent by emails or Zoom or other kinds of connections, and
Right.
so you don't have to go. So I'm not sure we need that much there, but it doesn't matter because they'll take it out if we don't use it and cover something that we overexpended on.
would the education, be used to pay a speaker? They would, or would that? be
Yeah,
this?
no, I mean, that's right. We can use professional development funds for that, I believe.
Yeah.
But we can also use, we can use some of the money. See, there's a section down here that says conservation fund.
here.
And what that means is that anything that's left over in that fund, if we overspend these other things, is put into the conservation fund. And, we can spend into that so that there's that less that goes to the Mascoma conservation fund thing if we need to. So I think last year's budget would be just as fine. I don't see that there's any reason
I'm
to ask
gonna
for
pull
any
it up
more.
for you, Jerry. I just realized. I can get it up for you.
Okay, thank you.
Here we are. Let's make him bigger. We like bigger, right?
That's the budget.
Let me just, I'll cast this.
So I received this notice from Mrs. Bennett. It says, complete budget worksheets are due no later than September 15th. And it says, please complete the department request column with budget figures you are prepared to justify. Update the notes to include adequate detail in the case of repairs, service contracts due to similar lines that contain multiple separate items. Please list each item including in the budget line. That probably doesn't apply to us. Routine wages definitely doesn't apply to us. New projects, we've already worked out a deal to work with Mr. Sandwater. So part of that, most of this doesn't really apply to us, even though it was sent to me. But it does mean that we have to get this budget into them by the September 15th.
So your meetings, I don't know, I don't recall how much you pay per meeting. Is it a flat rate or is it by the hour?
Oh, she charges by the hour.
Okay, so this is what you spent, what you actually spent last year of the budget and we went over. So, and I'm assuming, do you want to assume there's some kind of cost of I don't know how you guys do that. If there's.
Well, we have always been basically dependent upon what she charges us per hour. Now, I don't know whether she's gonna raise her prices or not. She takes the minutes for several different other groups here. Has she notified you that you're gonna raise the prices?
The select board, we have somebody who's a town employee, so it's structured differently, so I don't know what that's gonna be, but let's say if that was all of last.
Well, we were $175 over what we had budgeted for her, hearing records of $600.
So we just adjust that up.
So they wanted to put it up to $775.
I wonder, well, so that's your actual,
Yeah.
if you, and what about rounding it to like, this is just me throwing it out there. If you divide that by 12 meetings, right, roughly, because we don't know what we're gonna get, and then multiply it by the 8% from last year, so that you get, that would be 837. Say if you called it 825,
Sure.
that would, in case you needed an extra.
Yeah.
Like,
That sounds
Well,
good.
let's clarify something here.
Mhm.
She ain't here today taking minutes, so she's not gonna charge us for the hour or 2 hours she spent here. She's gonna charge us for just what it times to type it up from that.
it will take it takes her about the same amount of time. She's pretty fast. So she's gonna watch the same video for the same amount of time, right?
Right, but she won't be charging us twice.
I think her minutes are good enough up front that she does some tweaks. She doesn't spend a lot of time afterwards, in my experience. So, but I think, like, just in general, like for budgeting purposes, look at last year, divide it out and figure out what you
Yeah,
think it
just
might.
put a figure down.
Or put 800
All
because.
right, let's put 800, because the rest of it, for the most part, there's the 250 that we're gonna pay for the dues for the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions.
Mhm,
Beyond that, we really don't need office supplies.
mhm.
We don't need postage. Miscellaneous is probably not necessary to put in 8.
What was miscellaneous last year though?
That's a good question.
That was the signs that we bought, the concert.
Right, and,
Wildlife signs.
and they have to be billed to a fund and then reimburse the
Right.
fund. That's
That's
for
right.
accounting. So that makes sense.
So we're not gonna have that anymore.
Do you guys wanna do any, but when you're doing the trail signage, do you wanna leave an allowance for some trails? Or do you wanna just leave it at 100, overdraw the line and reimburse the line?
I
basically?
think that's the best thing to do.
Okay,
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm in agreement with that.
We'll look like we're saving a lot of money for the town.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so basically, we just wanna increase the meetings to like 800,
Yeah,
and everything else looks fine.
everything else will be 0.
mhm.
This was easy.
Although, so conservation, did we only? That's weird.
I talk at a bit.
I think that was because they had to borrow a lot of money from the conservation fund to pay for the overages that we had.
Sometimes he has.
Must
You
have,
add 726 and 175, you make them up with 873.
yeah, that's probably what happened. Stole from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. We're not gonna.
Well, because these are bills though, that going in, right? Cause they don't offset within the line, because these are only expenses. So that's a different expense than the other expenses. I'm wondering what else got expensed to that. Oh, you know what? Did you guys have anything for like the meetings you had? Like when?
Yeah, we did at the Shaker.
Yeah.
We had
big
food.
receipt.
That was all paid for.
Oh, yeah, that was done.
Was it paid by directs? Okay, so I'm just wondering what else got charged to that?
What is the category?
The conservation funds? We could ask for a printout of what actually got charged.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I
Seems
can't
like there
remember.
was something expense, but I
I
can't remember.
slept since then.
Well, and sometimes something gets allocated and you realize it's not allocated into the
Yeah.
correct line, so it doesn't always hurt. You guys don't have a big budget.
No,
The miscellaneous that came out of the conservation fund was
It's the signs.
$826.
Mm-hmm. Well, that
Yes.
826, yeah, but the conservation fund is this other line and something got booked into it for 873.20.
either one thing or a couple
Well,
things.
something, yeah, in aggregate, you have charges of
Yeah.
870.
That went to the conservation fund.
What?
In other words, that 873.
Right,
Mhm.
but what was it? You have any
It was
idea?
a rollover, wasn't it a rollover?
Right.
You
In
put
other
it out
words,
into the trust.
the town allocated in 2022 $873.20 for the conservation fund. That's what I got from the treasurer right here, the conservation funds report. Now for 2023, the town is allocating $1,250 to the conservation fund.
I think she just took last year's number.
Yes, I think she did too.
And that's why I was wondering what action, because you might find that you have a project you wanna do, or you might find that you didn't need to do it, that's why I was. Ask.
Well, it was my understanding that the budget committee had already come up with a budget for the Conservation Commission.
No, it goes from, they usually try to ask the department or committee for their budget, and it hasn't gone forward yet, so. I think
Okay.
she's giving you a blank slate kind of to fill in.
Right, she is.
Okay.
So is it all right with everybody that we just use the budget from last year?
Yes,
Yes.
Do I hear a motion for that?
I make a motion, we accept the budget from last year as written.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's what I will submit to Mrs. Bonnet.
Sounds good.
That's good. Yay.
And this isn't your absolute last pass, right? You have it, because it goes before the budget committee. So if you came upon like a fantastic project or learned something, it could be modified.
I remember
Okay.
they told us. we
Nothing's
had
final
some-
till it goes in front of the voters.
Yeah, they always said if there's something big, come and
Yep.
ask us.
This is gonna cover what we were just talking to Craig about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. This is the town's budget. The
Oh.
Conservation Fund, which is just a small part of what the town puts down in their budget, is gonna be from the
have money.
Conservation Fund that we have, and that amount
That's
is
the
16,000.
Yeah,
$16,751 and
Okay.
2 cents.
that's where Craig's money.
That's where Craig's money and whatever donation we vote to give the Cardigan Mountain
Yes.
Nears on a yearly basis for their
There were.
work.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So everybody's happy with that. I shall put that notice into Elisa tomorrow. Okay, now there's a communications that I got from a Nancy Menton, who's the new grant manager for the
Eastman.
Eastman Charitable Fund. And she's saying that if you have any projects that you wish to seek funding for, you can submit them to the foundation.
Yep.
Now, there are a whole bunch of different granting agencies that are listed in this book here and from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. I haven't really thought of any particular projects that are justified to apply those grants to. But if you have some project that you want to bring up, let the Conservation Commission know, and if it,
I have one, but
all
I can
right,
wait. I can wait until you're,
no, I want,
Okay.
I want to get applications in writing though. so I
Yeah,
can-
no, so I wanted to, ask, I haven't had an opportunity yet to meet with Patty Freed. If you don't know Patty, she is the master gardener
Yeah.
doing the landscaping in Lakeside Park. And, Patty and I had kind of just started a basic conversation about these rain gardens, and how to block stormwater runoff, right, which has become an increasing
Yeah.
problem, from entering our waterways, because we don't want it in the wetlands or any of the tributaries going into anything. So one of the ways to do is to educate homeowners on how they can build these and talk about how we can incentivize it and do some education around it. So I wanted to talk to Patty in the first instance and then maybe ask you guys if it would be something of interest for conservation where we could be teaching people how to,
Mhm.
offer, it's a great space for wildlife, for different bugs and butterflies and creatures of all kinds, and another way to direct the water down into the soil so it could be properly filtered. So it's something that I wanted to kick off a conversation with Patty, but I also think it might be an opportunity for grant, depending on what, like, be it some basic materials and picking a spot, for doing some trainings. I don't really know what it might look like yet, but I wanted to just ask you guys if it's anything you'd be interested in looking at.
Yeah, particularly along unpaved roads,
Mhm.
because that's where most of the
Mhm.
silting is coming from.
Right, and like I personally kind of have accidentally built myself some of these because I have fields of water coming down off the hill. And even though it's paved, it's going and it's gonna undermine the doesn't even hit the pavement, it's ruining everything around it. And so,
The English are building, those water gardens to control the runoff,
Mhm.
because they, like a lot of old cities,
Mhm.
their sewage and their rainwater, drainage systems are confluent.
Mhm.
So when they get a lot of rain, the sewer system overflows
Ugh.
and they dump it into the Thames River.
Ugh.
So they're trying to develop a method with these rain gardens to keep the rainwater from running into the gutters and down into the sewer. So this type of thing here would be very useful. I mean, we pump all of our sewer to Lebanon, but the point is that, or at least in the houses that are on the municipal system. But around the lakes here, we are victims of the old days.
Mm.
Very small lots, close to the lake surface, with mostly inadequate septic systems that are draining into the lake itself. I've been collecting water and sending them to the New Hampshire Association or the New Hampshire Public Health Department and to several other laboratories. And we are getting Enterobacter and Enterococcus. These are two organisms that the State Department of Public Health uses as indications of sewage contamination of fresh water. And they're coming from the houses that are close to the lake with very little land to use as a leach field. And that is contributing the nitrogen and the phosphorus that is helping the cyanobacteria blooms. So you trace this back to something we cannot correct. The other thing that is confounding is that the zoning ordinance here requires that if those camps, which they're being built into 2 and sometimes 3-story houses along Crystal Lake that are now being occupied year round. If the camp is torn down, the new place has to be built in the same footprint that the old camp occupied, which isn't improving the setback from the lake at all. And that's in the town ordinance. So we are fighting years of incompetent zoning, and I don't know anything that we can do about that.
Well, we're gonna be updating our zoning, and I think I've talked to Ed a little bit about this, and one of the things we could do, even if they were in the same footprint, a lot of them have like the perfectly manicured lawn that goes straight downhill for the geese to land on, right? So it's bad across the board because somebody decides they're gonna get a little wild with the Miracle-Gro, and the next thing you know, it's in the lake. So just teaching people, and then we cry because the geese are on our lawn. Well, everybody likes nice lawn, geese included, right? So just teaching people like, hey, you can have this beautiful garden that protects the lake and makes it so, because how many days could you swim this year in Enfield? There weren't very many. It's been really sad in both Crystal and Mascoma. And I think just getting people to do this buy-in piece and giving them some tools, and then even talking to them, like, that little green thing of fertilizer that you're really excited about in your green lawn, you're part of, it's all adding to it without being mean to people and just saying like, you could be part of the solution. Don't you want to swim for more days? I mean, I do.
This is something we could put into the educational part of our rain gardens.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think because remember Kat Buxton talked about the rain garden.
Yes, she did.
And I mean, she spent a great deal of time on, but I have a lot of friends on Crystal Lake, in Holly Drive, and people that are building up a farm. A lot of their fill that they're building washed.
Yeah.
washed right down and now they have a big mound of.
And rain gardens have a really good structure, recommended structure with, larger rocks and things that hold to
Yeah.
direct
Yeah.
down into the soil, so it absorbs and
Well,
filters.
it's just a
properly.
man-made wetlands, really. I mean, it does.
Yeah, it's
the
a
same
nice
thing.
looking,
It
very-
captures the water and,
Without becoming a mosquito breeding pool.
yeah.
So could
It's a
you,
nice idea, I think.
could you put together
Yeah.
some kind of
I'll talk
formal
to-
outline of what we're
Yeah,
gonna
I'll
do?
talk to Patty and then if it's too broad, I'll ask, you guys what, you wanna focus on, but.
Yeah, I think I would be willing to help with that whatever time I could.
It's very interesting, yep.
I randomly have like a lot of, well, just because I like them, a lot of the native plants. So I think there's an opportunity here too, to share the seeds from the native plants. I don't know if you guys know that, but, my favorite is bee balm, right? Scarlet bee balm is considered a
I
native.
have
It naturalizes really well,
Yeah.
super easy to grow, and you can hand somebody the seed without giving them jumping worms, because that's the other issue, right? Is there's quite a few jumping worms from fishing people along the lake now. Crystal's got it.
I've been hearing about those jumping worms. I haven't seen any
I
yet.
haven't
Green
either.
Pat had them
So,
once, a couple years ago.
Carol spotted some on the lake shore and
Yeah.
they bought a bunch of mustard to pick them. So I think there's multiple things that can be done to help people.
that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, and if I don't wanna, if you guys have another thing you wanna apply for, I
No,
don't,
I
Right
think
now,
this
I
is
think
great.
that's as good as any right now.
Got my book
it's something small we could
Yeah,
do here.
something to start exploring. I
Yeah.
agree.
and start small and people learn about it and.
Yeah, it's all about educating people because I think once they know what the problem is, well, they do know about fertilizer and the fact.
Yeah,
that-
I think it's just, they don't think about, like, you can tell yourself you went and got a great fertilizer that's like organic, but it's still gonna have some of the things that contribute to the problem,
Right.
right? So, like, I have runoff from my farm, we catch it and divert it, so it
Yeah.
goes into the woods and sinks down, and we use chips and all sorts, but not everybody's gonna do that.
People have got to start being irritated by the number of cyanobacteria days we've had. So, I mean, that has got to have ruined plans. I know it did ours, so
Mhm.
that's, but they've got to know that they can stop this from happening. We also need the town's support too, because we need to be able to incentivize hitching up to the town sewer. Cause we put in a line when we built the new house, put in a line and tried to get all our neighbors to jump on, and the cost of jumping on would be fine. But by the time you get through with all the town's fees and everything, it was an additional $10,000-12,000, and a lot of people can't afford that.
Yeah, cause you're tapping into, and your fees would be different, cause you were tapping into a force main versus a gravity feed. And so if the neighbors tapped in at the same time as you, they would have benefited, but each time you do it separately, it's a,
No, because they actually charge a hookup,
Yeah.
you know, like.
we have to charge a
per
hookup,
person.
but Lebanon charges an
Le-
additional
Lebanon
hookup.
does too.
That's a new round of fun, and Ed has started working on that.
Yeah, has he?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know how far we're gonna get, but we've got, yeah, cause Lebanon charges us a fee and we
Yeah.
have our fee, cause obviously we have our system. But it definitely, yeah, fee, fi, fo, fum, more fees. Not good.
Okay,
All right, so the administrative incomplete standard dredge and fill, that's what we talked about in the regulations that we didn't have an opportunity to look at. It's on map 27, lot 002. And they have indicated that they haven't dated, signed, and certified the standard dredge and fill wetland permit application. The maps are electronic files, shape files, and the metadata and other attachments they apparently didn't submit. And copies of the certified postal receipt or other proof of receipt of the notice that are required to be sent to the abutters. So those are the kind of things that if we have access to the permits, we can at least let the DES know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
thing is incomplete. Okay,
may I ask a very quick question? This, when I was going through this and whatever, and I came across something I didn't understand. The river corridor, one of the reasons it didn't pass because they didn't say that they were involved with a river corridor. I don't know what that is. It just says the river corridor includes the river and the land area located within 1,320 feet of the normal high water mark or two, what, I just didn't know what that 1,320 feet was. Was it back from the shore? Or what, any,
Almost everything's high water mark, isn't it, usually?
yeah, but it's like,
What
And-
page are you looking at?
this is something, it was on one of these, the one that was denied. And,
Oh,
so it said, they said no when they asked if the land was involved with the river corridor, and I don't know which,
Or right here.
yeah.
The property is located within a
A designated river corridor. And I looked up all the lakes that were in a river corridor, and Muskoma was in one. I just didn't know, is it the whole lake? Or is it just, it said 13, I was just for my own curiosity in
I
case.
think that would be the length at which the river runs along the property line.
Okay,
Because if you had 1,000 some odd feet setback,
You
it would be
could,
off the
that's
land
insane.
half the time.
that's why I wanted to, because I was just
It's,
questioning.
it's
it.
the shoreline that the property occupies
Thank you.
along the river itself.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, you got this notice about the people who own the sugar maple.
Yeah, for
farm.
patches. Yeah.
And so that's something that is ongoing at the moment. It's only tangentially related to the 100 acres. There's another,
There's a public hearing held yesterday. Do you know the results?
No. Hadn't heard.
no, I was attending the candidates
Oh.
night last night, so I didn't go to the public hearing. But the Upper Valley Land Trust sent us something you might want to read over, monitoring the conserved Bicknell Forest.
Mhm.
Yep.
Then the this was the land surveyor or for the Upper Valley Land Trust is a fellow by the name of Sayer Wickham. And we went on a walk with him along the lower loop of the Bicknell Brook, and those pictures that are there
Mhm.
are partly pictures of the bridge that was actually constructed by Alan Strickland some time ago across part of that. And also a bridge that was built between private property and that Upper Valley Land
Yeah.
Trust property, has been washed downstream and is basically in disrepair and represents a pluggage potentially for the Bicknell Brook. So I wanted to know whether any of you are prepared to take a document or send a document to the Upper Valley Land Trust suggesting that decrepit thing, which is no longer on the private property, has washed down to some other spot in the Bicknell Brook, be removed.
You just need a letter?
Well, we need to let the Upper Valley Land Trust know, these pictures were taken by Sayer, and he may have known that, but we, I think, as a conservation commission, should emphasize the importance of getting that kind of trash out of the river.
Okay, I could do that.
So they just take a picture, but they don't do any action? Is
Yeah.
that,
This was a survey, don't they? They were checking on making sure that the easement wasn't compromised, right?
Correct.
okay,
Yeah, so
And
you
as
think
far
they
as-
would take repair?
They might, but I think we
Okay.
need to emphasize, because you see down below, it says everything appears to be in compliance with the easement, and it's checked yes. We don't think so. At least I don't think so.
So you just want to emphasize the fact that this should be removed.
Yes, that is no longer on the property of the person who built it.
Okay,
It has been washed away and now is basically potentially blocking the stream by gonna catch other kind of debris and basically produce.
dam up the
Dam.
stream, yeah.
And it is either on somebody else's property, on the other side of the bank is apparently mostly private property.
It is, that, I remember that bridge, that bridge goes to that was a private property, there's a sign that it says private
It
property
did,
too,
but it's
yeah.
now washed away from that.
Yeah,
So that's what you should, emphasize, Carolyn, is
Okay.
that it is no longer where it was originally put up. It's a potential obstruction of the stream and it should be removed.
Okay.
And, if it is removed, I think we should explore the possibility that the person who put it up should pay for the removal price.
Okay, I'll draft the letter and email it to you.
We'll email it to all of the people
All right,
and we'll have to address it, I guess, at our next, meeting, which is only gonna be a couple of weeks from now.
Right,
okay.
so I'll see if I can get any of the scouts to come. Busy time of year for them.
Okay, so the rest of it is just pictures that were taken,
Mhm.
by Mr. Sayer, Mr. Wickham on the way around. And all those maps and so on are relevant to that. You can read those. And then there was a couple of warnings, which I'm sure you all saw, with the bacteria. And the last thing, is a correspondence I received from the Ducks Unlimited that I belong to, even though I don't hunt. The loss of wetlands is accelerating. And so is the battle to reverse it. So that's something I think the Conservation Commission should direct its attentions to in many ways, because we don't have much authority over anything else. And they are important in supplying water to the aquifers, which everybody in Enfield, depending on wells, which is everybody that lives here, is really at risk if those aquifers become contaminated.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, any other business?
yeah, I have something, Jerry, regarding our educational modules. You were working on the one for the high school, right?
Yes.
I would say, are you at the point now where you can type it up and we can submit it to the teacher just to review?
Well, I
Yeah,
thought
well-
I'd go over there and ask her, talk to her, meet her in person,
Okay.
tell her what I wanted to do and see what she's
Okay.
accepted.
Okay, so you want me to, kind of make that connection with her to you? Cause I've got her contacts.
Yeah, you just mentioned it was a science teacher.
Yeah,
And-
Environmental science teacher,
But you didn't give
Fitzgerald.
me a name, so if you
Yeah.
could do that,
I could send you her contacts.
okay, that would
Okay.
be great.
I will do that. And regarding what I'm working on, I had some communication with, Kristen, I think that's her name.
Yes,
right? Your
yep,
phone.
Barrington.
Yeah, and I just clarify, I had some questions for her, so I have an hour from 3:30, I guess, to 4:30, so I'm gonna have to reshape my modules a little bit, because I thought I might have a little more time. So I'm continuing to work on that. I talked with Sue Pratt, the connection that Carol and Shirley hooked me up with. She does stuff like that at Eastman and in Florida. She gave me some good ideas, and over at Eastman, they have a water table model. And that I can borrow. I think she's used it before for small groups. And it says it's pretty impressive for kids to kind of impress upon them the importance of that model and how water flows through different, kind of environments and can impact them. So I'm gonna borrow that and fit that into one of my modules. So I'm continuing to work on that. I have until November to get mine done, so I hopefully will have the modules soon, so I can submit it to her and get it to you guys, so you know what I'm doing, okay? That's all I have.
One question I have about the timing. You're gonna take these kids out to the Harris,
No, we're not, we have to stay right in the school, so we're gonna be out and back of the school, or either it's gonna be in the school, or it's gonna be out, maybe there's a bunch of oaks in back of the
but
school.
one of the things you said you were gonna try and find squirrel tracks.
Yeah,
You're not gonna be able to do that if you're in the school.
no, we're gonna be outside.
Okay, and in November, you think there'll be enough squirrels that?
I'm a little uncomfortable with that, depending upon the weather. There's a bunch of oaks out there.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, you know, we might find some nuts that have been chewed. We might find some tracks. We might find, you know, some sign. I mean, it's gonna be looking for signs, not necessarily,
Okay,
you know.
but I mean, you wanna have something that is positive that they can connect with, so they're enthused rather than.
Correct.
Okay,
You might find a trash panda.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're popular downtown. You could find somebody else, like we have downtown, there's raccoon, there's bear.
Yeah.
There's a bobcat downtown
Yeah.
that wanders around right downtown.
yeah. And
Really?
it's a little swampy back there
He
too.
was in
So
Alice's
yeah.
backyard one time.
there's some trails out and back there, you know, so I was gonna explore them.
That's
And we'll see
exciting.
what we can find.
okay,
And it'll be an introduction, and then I think, you know, that'll be one piece, and then, like I said, I have 4 weeks. I think getting some ideas from Sue, I'm gonna work on developing those, and I got this book here that, called Riparia's River. And I haven't looked through it yet, but you thought it was pretty good. It's written by Michael
Beautiful
Caduto, is the gentleman that conducted the walk down at Eastman. So I'm gonna look through that. I need to work on them, and I might reach out to you, Jerry, to get some more ideas too.
well, I just don't want the kids to be disappointed.
No, I know,
Because of the late, the month of the year,
I know.
the opportunity that the animals may all be hibernate. Now, gray squirrels don't hibernate in the winter, if I'm told right.
Yeah, you do see them more.
Yeah, the red squirrels do.
Who cares about red squirrel? I don't want to kid in there.
But you don't usually see them together very
Yeah.
often anyway.
Yeah, red
Well,
squirrels,
red squirrels are one
Not
of the,
feeding them.
one of the greatest causes of deaths of rabbits. They actually attack, the cottontail rabbits and kill them. So they're, yeah, right.
Weird.
I was
Yeah.
surprised to read that too, but it's apparently the case.
so I want to get my modules fine tuned and bring them into you guys to look at and give me some feedback, okay? So I'm still working on them, you know, as I've got more information.
Okay,
And I'll give you the contact for, the teacher so that you can reach out to her, because school will be starting soon. Okay,
yes, 29th of August, I think it
Yeah.
is.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Doing a
okay, that's all I
What are
have.
the ones that build the leafy nests in the trees? Are those the gray squirrels?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, cause you might maybe find a few nests.
yeah, because there's some big oaks on the school property.
Yeah, cause I just took down a couple of nests around my house
Yeah.
because we had some broken branch.
Yeah,
It'll
when
be
the
fun,
leaves
yeah.
fall out of the trees, you can also see a lot of bird nests
Yeah,
up in the trees in the area where I live anyway.
yeah, that's true.
I saw,
Okay,
I saw-
anybody else got anything to bring up?
no,
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second,
second.
all in favor,
Uh,
opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Mhm.
I'll see you in 2 weeks because we're gonna go